Hello and welcome to Talk Talent to Me podcast channel, hosted by Emaar Recruitment. We speak to businesses in the Middle East about their journeys and the importance of identifying and cultivating talent to drive success. Earlier this month, we spoke to Hamza Khan, co-founder at LetsWork Co-working Spaces. In 2 years, they've built a strong community of around 12,500 registered users across 43 locations in the UAE. We discussed how they successfully raised seed funding, built their brand, and created an app that is used across the Emirates. We also see how they created a new business proposition off the back of the COVID-19 restrictions. Hamza, hi.
Hi, how's it going?
Very good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very well, or as well as can be in, in these circumstances.
And during Ramadan Kareem?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, it's day four, is it? And yeah, so far so good. It's iftar in an hour or two now, so
Yeah,
not long to go.
good. Well, thanks for coming along today. And as you know, I want to talk a little bit about LetsWork's journey as a local startup,
Yeah,
and some of the key learnings that you've had along the way. I think it's a really nice story that you guys have got, and you're doing so well. I think it'd be really interesting for people, not only other startups that kind of can help learn from, but anyone working here in Dubai. I think you've got some a cool story to share. So
thank you.
we'll crack on.
Yeah, let's do
Um,
it.
so how did it all start with yourself and Omar?
Right. So basically, Omar and I, wow. So this was about 2.5 years ago now. It was the end of it was the end of 2018, 2017. Yeah, it was the end of 2017. And I grew up in Dubai, and so did Omar. He's Emirati, and we basically grew up in Dubai, but we moved abroad for university. So I went to London to study law, and he went to Boston to study engineering. We didn't know each other growing up, but we both sort of when we both moved back to Dubai, both after graduation and after working abroad for a bit, we were both selected for this program called the E25 program, which the chairman of Emaar, Mr. Mohammed Al Abar. So he's quite a like very interesting sort of character here in the UAE. I mean, obviously he's the man behind Emaar, which has built the Burj Khalifa and Dubai Mall and all the other sort of massive developments here in the region. But he's also a bit of an entrepreneur himself, where he's invested, whether as an investor or as a founder, and he's invested in all sorts of sort of e-commerce startups and other businesses across the country, which you don't even realize, funnily enough, that oh, he's behind that as well. So
Yeah.
every day, well, yeah, in the beginning, I was always a bit of a shock, like, oh wait, the chairman's behind that as well. So so he launched this program basically to really cultivate. We were all selected. We were all under the age of 25. The idea was that we'd all be from sort of different backgrounds. I was a token lawyer. We had consultants, we had engineers, we had people who were product managers in other startups previously as well, and some with even sort of like medical backgrounds as well. And the interesting thing was that we all sort of had this, the common denominator amongst us was that we all had this passion for entrepreneurship and wanting to start our own business. And
Yeah.
and so we were selected for the program, and the idea was that we'd either sort of work on our own startup ideas or work on innovative projects or concepts within the Emaar ecosystem. So that's real estate, hospitality, retail, and all the other sort of smaller industries that they're involved in. And so I actually joined the program looking to do something in urban farming, because I was quite passionate about sort of food security, and I thought there was a massive hole in the gap in the market where the people, the UAE imports so much of its food that we really should be growing stuff here in the UAE. And I thought set up all these hydroponic farms and stuff, but unfortunately, because it was quite far-fetched for the time and required significant amounts of investment, we ended up going with co-working. And I met Omar at the program, and he was already working on the idea, and he needed a co-founder for that. And so we sort of joined forces, and then so we launched a beta version of it in 2018. And yeah, it was super bootstrapped. We literally found someone to just develop this basic web platform for us. And we realized that, there are so many people, because we wanted to do something in the co-working industry, we realized that, doing it at a massive scale, like the way WeWork does it, requires insane amounts of capital, right? And what we saw was that people were already working from hotels and cafes and business centers in hotels, for example. And why not sort of formalize that into this network sort of membership where you can sign up for a day, a week, a month, or a quarter, and you can get access to all these different locations across the country, and you can get all these sort of benefits, and it's cost effective, it's affordable, it's flexible. And so yeah, we literally went to the Rove Hotel. We saw people working on laptops, and we sort of said to them, hey, would you buy a membership to come and work from the Rove Hotels? And you get all these amazing benefits. And would you do that instead of just coming in and just hogging a table like you're sitting at a Starbucks or something for the whole day? And people were like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I'd love to. And then we sort of got around 15 people together, and then we launched it basically. And since then, we've sort of grown from strength to strength. We have our app now, which we actually just redesigned a few days ago as well. So during the COVID lockdown, we actually had a bit of time on our hands, and we thought, why not sort of do a lot of the things that we've been sort of pushing off and haven't really had the time to do. So we got our app redesigned. We had we sort of dealt with all like the financial sort of the silly things that
boring stuff,
the boring stuff that requires signing off on. So,
yeah, no, it's really funny because literally what you said there about just going up to people in the Rove or something like that and saying, no, would you be interested? That's exactly how you signed us up. Ed and I, we just launched Hoymal, and you're like, hey guys, you interested in free coffee? And I was like, yeah. So, you solved a problem for us. It was, we want to work somewhere that's cool. We're a brand new business. We want, we haven't got an office. We just want to keep costs down at the beginning. And you kind of gave access to all these different places. And it was great for a business like ours where it's so much about meeting people. So we're across the buy straight away. We could go and meet clients and candidates in the different locations. And it worked so well. How were you literally doing that to everyone at the beginning? How were you building your client base initially?
Yeah, I mean, it was all word of mouth, and even now, I mean, the best client referrals or the best members or the ones that sort of stay with us the longest as well, they're all word of mouth. I mean, you can pump thousands of dirhams on a daily basis on on ads and stuff, and unless you really have someone like who says like unless you really have like a member who tells another friend that, oh wow, have you heard of this amazing thing, like you get all these things as part of it, and it's so affordable, it's so flexible, the app's great as well, and I've met so many people through it, like it goes viral, right? So yeah, I mean, for us, like client referrals and really going up to people and literally, I think honestly for the first year that's literally all I did. And interestingly, we were a team of 2 for the first I'd say 8 months, and then we had our first hire. We had my cousin funnily enough as an intern for like 2 months just before he went off to uni, and then we had one of Omar's friends, Daria, who's now been with us for about 2 years now, and she's been with us since then. So it was literally it was a party of 2.
Yeah, it's amazing. And how have you found combining your skills, as you say, from 2 different backgrounds? Has that been important that you guys have, one, you've started this journey as 2 of you?
Yeah.
You've got someone to share the highs and lows. And 2, how have you combined your skills from different ends of the spectrum altogether?
Definitely. I mean, it's interesting because I mean, if anyone ever wanted to start their own business, especially at scale, and especially if it's something that is not really like a traditional sort of business like ours, then I highly recommend that you sort of find a co-founder or something, because you hit the nail on the head. You just need like a partner to sort of ride the highs and the lows. But I mean, in terms of skill sets, it's so interesting because even obviously on paper he's an engineer and I'm a lawyer, and we probably have a lot of overlap, but then our personalities are so different as well. I'm someone who's a bit of a I panic. I'm always I'm always running around trying to get stuff done, while he's a lot more relaxed. Like honestly, a meteor could hit the earth and Omar would still just, oh, no way. Okay, cool, nice. So I think that sort of balancing is really important, especially with co-founders. And obviously, I think if you guys get on as friends as well, I think that makes a massive difference. Because I've been in situations in past sort of I don't know, projects or stuff where your sort of co-founder wasn't a friend. It was just someone who was you sort of worked with. And it's not even about co-founder, whether it's on whether it's on projects at work or in school and stuff. Your coworkers, if you get along with them on like a friendly level as well, it makes a whole lot more difference, because then you actually look forward to coming to work as well, and you have that banter, and it's not just sort of these boring tasks that you're getting on with, and you say goodbye to them at 5 p.m. Like, you actually stay in touch and things, so it's fun.
Yeah, that's exactly what other people have said that I've interviewed recently from different industries, different businesses, but the common theme has been that they've started with someone and been able to share those different experiences. Another thing that they've always said is it's the mindset of both of them. So it's not you. I bet you never think, I wonder what Omar's doing, or is he pulling his weight? You both know that you are grinding it out. You're making it happen.
Exactly. And it's also a bit of like a yin and yang thing, because obviously I'll have days when I'm feeling super lazy and just not really motivated at all. But he'd sort of somehow compensates, like he knows that oh, Hamza's just not really working that hard, so maybe I'll just compensate. And then it works the other way around as well, And the same way when it comes to sort of, obviously we have holidays and birthdays and celebrations and things, and we like we joke around about it that that we'll never ever be able to go on holiday together, because someone has to look after the business, and we both love to, but no, you're right about the covering for each other and stuff. It's great.
Cool. So a bit about the industry that you've gone into. I think particularly at the moment, when people say co-working, a couple of, I guess, competitors come into mind. So the likes of WeWork, and it's been a bit of a topical company. I guess you get that a lot. But yes. Are they a competitor, or how are you different to someone like WeWork?
So, I mean, they are a competitor in some ways, because we're obviously fighting for a similar sort of target market. But I think we've sort of like we in terms of our business model, like we're completely different. So WeWork, and sort of the reason why they've sort of been in the news over the past year or so because of their financial issues is because they're not really a tech startup in any way. What they really are is just a real estate player that's just playing on rental arbitrage. So what they're doing is they'll lease a commercial space out for 10 years, and then they'll sublease that space out for a month or 6 months or a year on shorter terms to subtenants, who would be people like me and you. The problem with that is when sort of things start going wrong, like their customers will just leave after giving their notice period of a month or so. But then WeWork themselves still have their obligations to the actual landlord as well, and that's when sort of things get a bit tricky. What we do is completely different. So what we do is we instead sort of partner with existing venues, and we partner with hotels, we partner with cafes, with work-friendly cafes. We partner with players like WeWork as well, like other co-working spaces, and we basically offer them a way to sort of generate footfall, generate revenue, generate sort of extra exposure and marketing via this sort of revenue share model that we have with them. So we basically charge a customer for a package, for a day pass or a week pass, a month pass or a 3-month pass to come and use the space and enjoy some benefits. And then in exchange, we sort of have this agreement with the venues that sort of, it's like a win-win basically for both of us. So we alhamdulillah, like we don't have that sort of rental obligation. But I mean, it is definitely like an interesting area to go into and we sort of played around with the idea of building our own sort of physical, HQs or hubs like WeWork has as well. But I mean, I think in this sort of market, I think it doesn't make any sense to sort of do it in like a landlord and sublease and sort of a rental arrangement. It would have to be in some sort of kind of like hotels, like how hotels have like Marriott, for example. It doesn't actually own the JW Marriott marquee. It's simply like a hotel management agreement, and someone else actually owns the building. I definitely think like the co-working industry will probably evolve towards something more like that in the future.
Okay. So you said something just then that you don't see you're more of a tech startup, you see yourself as.
Yeah, because I
Then
mean, at the end of the day, we don't own anything. The only thing we own is our app on our phones, right?
yeah.
So that's essentially where pretty much a lot of our costs go to. It's the developers, it's building this app, and then I mean it's the IP of the brand, and then I mean it's basically then what you wonder, what do we do next, and it's basically monetizing on that IP, and then if you can have sort of branded LetsWork locations because it's suddenly known as the go-to brand for workspaces and workspace solutions, then that's something that we could look into.
Yeah, and what about your brand? Let's talk a little bit about that. I love your brand. I've always said to you guys that it's just kind of really clean, simple, quite
Yeah,
funky. Before we started recording, when we spoke about how our business is pure B2B,
yeah.
whereas yours is B2B, but you can play around with it a bit, so it's a bit B2C focused.
No, I think it's definitely both. So I
Yeah,
mean, in terms of our customers, it's teams like you guys, so it's B2B
yeah,
in that sense. But I mean, a massive chunk of our customers is just individuals, solo entrepreneurs, freelancers, students, just people, or even funnily enough, like one of our locations is in the Arabian Ranches, and because it's such a residential sort of expat, sort of older expat sort of neighborhood, some of our most regular members there are moms. Moms just
yeah. That's
just
B2C.
it's,
Yeah.
it's it's so interesting. So yeah, I think being B2C sort of allows us to be a bit more fun as well. And I think with the brand, I mean, the thing is because our target market is so massive, and I'd love to sort of inject sort of and in some sort of specific style to it, but at the same time, I think you need to keep it as sort of commercial and broad and appealing to as many people as possible in terms of styles and colors that you use and things. So that's been a learning curve for us.
And with that kind of the marketing piece with the brand, once you've got your brand, how much of that have you played around with in terms of your marketing spend and things like that? That's something that we're actually still learning about
Yeah.
here. I know that you've done bits on Facebook, Instagram. How
Yeah.
do you
So
how have you kind of worked out the best formula so far?
So I mean, it's so funny. I was reading this article the other day about how I think it was something silly. I think like something like 60% of all venture capital funding that's gone to startups, that money has then gone on to Facebook and Google and other sort of players that are in the digital marketing sphere, because that's essentially where a lot of our money goes, right? Other
Yeah.
than sort of labor costs in terms of employees and their salaries and stuff, and the company setup costs and things. That's where pretty much all of our marketing costs go. So whether it's Google ads, whether it's Facebook marketing, it's Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, all these sort of sponsored posts, whether it's sort of influencer marketing as well, which is something we've looked at
Okay.
for quite a bit. So it's all these different sort of social media platforms, which basically take pretty much most of our marketing chunks. We've done some sort of physical marketing as well, and in terms of sort of being at exhibitions and conferences and stuff, and showing off our product. But yeah, on a day-to-day basis, it's all Facebook and Google, and that's pretty much how you rely on getting to people, really reaching out to your target market.
Yeah, and I've seen that you, especially recently, you've been doing a lot of value adds, giving out to your customer base, even on social media, all these different webinars and talks
Yeah,
and advice. And I think that really sets you apart. And it's not just random stuff. It's really honed in and tailored to relevant to
yeah,
this market as well. Not just
yeah, for sure.
the best way to work from home, which you could just say to anyone. It's
Yeah.
specifically in this market.
No,
Doing
I think
Ramadan, for instance.
agreed. I think it's so important to be relevant, like, because you could easily just like have copy paste random stuff from everywhere, and you're right. Anyone can go anywhere else and find that. But I think what sets you as a brand apart is when you sort of actually go the extra mile and give people what that extra detail that they're looking for, and make sure that it's sort of it ties in with what their day-to-day lives are. So even in terms of our messaging on adverts and stuff, is it's super specific to that sort of specific target market as well. It's like, what are your pain points specifically? Like for students, is like, we won't just say, oh, are you looking for a space to study? We think about who are the students in the UAE. So we realize that students who probably study at AUS or Academic City, or they're high school graduates who are doing their A levels they're in high school right now and they're doing their A levels right now, and maybe they don't have a library or a really good library in their schools or in their universities, and so that's why we sort of play around with our marketing messages as well.
Yeah, no, it's really good, and it's funny how you, again, your customer base is actually quite broad. I think I thought at the beginning, oh, it'd just be kind of startups, maybe some freelancers, but it's so many different people. And it was really
Mm.
funny when I bumped into you guys at the Step conference this year, and I was thinking you had that quite a big, prominent position,
Yeah,
didn't you? Which
yeah,
is amazing. And I thought, oh my goodness, you're getting all the top startups and scale up businesses in the UAE, well, in the Middle East, and you know them all. And I guess at one point or another, they would have used you as a customer. And the same with
yeah.
these students coming through, for instance, and freelancers. Yeah, how good is that for your business in 5, 10, 15 years time? That they already know you as a brand, as a product, that they feels close to them as they grew. A bit like us, a bit like us.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think the best feeling, like, out of I think the highlight of probably the 2 years is when, you're at a random party, and they're like, oh, what do you do? And instead of my previous answer, which was, oh, I'm a corporate lawyer, like, now, like, oh, I run the startup. It's called LetsWork. Like, you probably haven't heard of it. And then they're like, oh yeah, the app, the
Yeah,
coffee
I've
one,
got
the
the
one.
app.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, my friend was telling me about it, or like, oh, I saw your ad on YouTube the other day. It was hilarious. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
no
yeah,
way. I think that's like
that's
that's
cool.
a really that's a great plus for sure. It's definitely an ego boost.
Yeah, that's just a nice thing as part, a little
Yeah,
extra bonus.
yeah,
Building a brand, building a business, not just
exactly.
financial, but having that cool little
Yeah, and
acknowledgement.
it sort of proves that, they're like, oh wait, so our ads are working. People are seeing it, and people are actually taking note, and they actually understand what the product is. And they, some may tell their friends, like, oh, have you heard of this might be helpful to you. And that's, as I said about the viral thing, it's all about sort of people telling other people, especially like here, where people, I don't know, it's interesting. I think things like social media, like Instagram, for example, is massive here in the UAE. Like,
Yeah.
I think people take it way more seriously than in other countries, where maybe Facebook is more popular or Twitter is more popular. So yeah, Instagram is pretty interesting.
And what about Dubai as a place to set your business up? I'm sure we'll talk about maybe other locations that you might do it, but
Yeah,
how's that been helpful to your success?
yeah. Well, I think the thing is with Dubai, well, I mean, for us, it was an obvious place because, I mean, it was a given because we we
Yeah,
we started out of the program, and we were both born and raised here and stuff. So, I mean, if it would have been option one in most cases anyway. And the interesting thing about Dubai is, I mean, on one hand, while you have in some cases, the extortionate sort of the fees and sort of the steps you have to take to set up a business and to actually get it going, it can go into the tens or even hundreds of thousands, depending on what industry you are in and what you want to do. If like that balanced with like the idea that this is sort of in some ways a bit of like a gateway to the rest of the Middle East, and the cool thing is that it is sort of like a small fish, small pond. And if you do actually end up becoming a bit of a big fish, then pretty much it's easier to get your name out
yeah,
than if you were in, I don't know, London or New York or Hong Kong or somewhere where where the competition is so much more fierce. So I
yeah,
think being in a place like Dubai, and I think that, along with the fact that I think there's so many opportunities as well, that especially for startups that are available, especially in terms of incubators and accelerators and grants that are available. And I mean, it's obviously you have to sort of apply for it, and you have to jump through quite a few hoops to actually get them. But I mean that there is that support available, and I think in the coming months and years, I think that support will just sort of increase more and more.
okay. And for you guys, did you kind of mentioned there about the kind of funding, things like that? Did you have to reach out for funding, or did you just use the obviously you won the competition lead 25? Was
Yeah.
that all you needed, or how's that
So
happen?
So I mean, so it wasn't really a competition to say, per se. It was more of like this theater program which we sort of applied to, and we were selected for it. And once we were
Okay,
selected for it, we would sort of apply for the funding. We would sort of run the Emaar sort of management team as to what the the financials really look like in a 1, 3, 5 year sort of time, and what the funding requirements would then be. And sort of we played around with the numbers. There was a bit of back and forth, but yeah, we were essentially given, once we sort of managed to get the sign off on that. We got the green light, and we got the sort of the seed funding we needed to get the business going. And I think interestingly with our business model as well, because we don't have massive overheads like, you know, having our own office, and we're not sort of, you know, we're not like WeWork where we have to invest in things. Our investment is in developers and building the app. Then that sort of helps us in keeping our costs minimal, and sort of ensuring that, you know, we hit profitability quite quickly.
Good. And what would be your tip to people that are trying to secure funding, seed funding at the moment? Things that you learned that perhaps they wouldn't know about.
I think number one is do you mean in this sort of in the situation we're in right now, or just generally
in general? So I asked some guys the other day who the guys at Hoppy Contact Lenses who secured seed funding, and their number one thing was just really simply make your deck amazing. Like
yeah, for sure. I think there's tons of money. We're literally in a country where, you know, we regularly, where, you know, the whole country is Knightsbridge, as opposed to just being like a small square kilometer, right? You see, you know, you see supercars. It's like it's a center of wealth for not just, you know, the region, but just like globally, it is a center of wealth. Right. Yeah. So there is a lot of money available. It's just finding the right channels to access it. And I think the thing is because like, I think the sort of the ecosystem, or like the industry, is sort of, it's not new, but it's a lot younger than I don't know, London or the Silicon Valley and stuff. So the amount of funding that you get, you know, I always find it so strange when I hear these VC sort of talks and stuff happening, like, oh yeah, you know, we wrote them a check for $2 million and stuff, and I'm like, wait, what? $2 million for seed funding? For like what? Like, that's insane. So I think that the actual ticket size that for sort of seed funding here is a lot smaller, but then those guys from Hoppy are definitely right. You know, just you know, have an amazing deck, you know, and make sure that, you know, you try to sort of reach out to as many people as possible, and you know, just keep pushing. I think if you sort of appear on people's radar enough, then they'll definitely sort of, you know, have a look at what you're trying to say.
Yeah, and it's a two-way street as well, isn't it? It has to be right for you as a business. Don't necessarily jump at the first person that comes to you. Or accepts. Has to be, they have to be able to add value.
Exactly. Like with the point about so much money being available, exactly, like, you know, what is the value they're bringing is if it's sort of like an individual investor, an angel investor, like, do they have sort of, you know, the specific contacts in the industry that you're in, which would really help you and really, like, you know, help sort of, you know, get you through a lot of these, you know, whether it's regulatory issues or finding the right target market and stuff, or if it's like an institutional investor, would they help you with securing, you know, further funding down, or would they help you with other sort of things in terms of, you know, fixing your business model or helping you with financials and stuff. So you really have to look at, you know, what the additional value is.
Good. And what about challenges that you've kind of had, and how have you, what would be the key challenges that you've had that you've overcome? Not particularly now as well, but from the beginning, what have you kind of learned?
I mean, I think, well, for us, I would say it's a few things. So number one, it's probably just getting the name out there. So, I mean, whether you're a big fish or a small fish in a big pond or a small pond, you still need to get your name out there, and you sort of need to do it right and make sure that, you know, the message you're going out sort of accurately sort of explains what your product or what your service is. And that's particularly relevant when, I mean, you know, if you're sort of offering sort of, you know, contact lenses, you know, what is the sort of the value that you're offering, right? Or if you're offering something a bit more sort of complicated than ours, that you can't really explain it in 2 words. Well, you can try, but it have a lot of meaning. So it's just, you know, getting in touch with as many people as possible, and getting that word out, and getting the right word out is really important. And I think it's the struggle we have, you know, even to this day, you know. But I mean, that's I think that's natural with any business. And then I think with number 2, probably be talent, which is interesting because I'm speaking to someone who deals with talent on a daily basis. But no, I think for sure, I think your company is as good as the people in it, And one thing I quickly realized was that, I mean, so when I said that, Omar and I, it was a two-man show for the first 8 or 9 months. We were literally doing everything. And it took us 8 or 9 months to realize that, wait, we actually need to hire someone full-time, so that full-time person can take on the sort of operational load, and then we take on the sort of the most strategic stuff. And it's interesting because when you look at sort of like the points in our sort of timeline as to when we hired people, that point somehow always correlates with like a jump in sort of revenue, because it's like, we would be at, at 4 people, and then we're really struggling, and my day-to-day work would literally be, working, editing videos or on Photoshop, instead of actually sort of planning the business and strategizing and doing like business development sort of work, which is executing exactly. It was more so the more operational things, or like fixing issues in the app and things like that. Then and so when we hired that extra pair of hands, then sort of, I got to focus on the other things which are more important for the long term, and yeah, it sort of works. But I think, like, I don't know if this I imagine it's probably a global problem, but just finding the right talent as well, and trying to make sure that they're continuously engaged, trying to make sure that they're aligned with what your vision is in the long term as well. I think, I don't know, what do you think, like, in terms of sort of millennials? Because I mean, our whole team is just millennials. Like I think I'm the oldest one, or just maybe the second oldest one in the team. The other 3 others are under the age of 26. So
that's ridiculous. Yeah, that's amazing.
Kids.
Yeah. Well, for us, ours is slightly different, because we hire experienced people who are consultants, because it's kind of senior level things that we deal with. Again, working with millennials would be great for a business like yours. I'd find it really interesting from a talent point of view, and how you recruit for millennials versus people that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s. Completely different way of doing it, and they want different things. In fact, one podcast that I'm going to do when we're allowed back out and back to normal is I want to have people who are prominent in good business positions, but from different generations, and actually then hear it from them directly, what they want from a role and from a business. Because you have people who are slightly older, obviously thinking about retirement, they just want to earn a bit of money, maybe get a bit of legacy from what they do, all the way down to the guys, millennials and younger. They just want career, work-life balance, learning opportunities, a different environment, where people in the middle probably have never really been given that opportunity, so they don't really care. It's really, and how you go about identifying, attracting and retaining those talent is completely different. But it's really interesting.
And it's difficult for me and Omar as well, because at the end of the day, like, we're also like, I just turned 27. He just turned 25 as well. And so we ourselves, we have zero like experience in leading teams. So I worked at a law firm for 2 years, and I was literally at the bottom of the food chain there. So I did all the shitty sort of work of, scanning through documents, finding typos, and then making sure everyone signed. So I did this, I did the sort of the monkey work, but I also did like the more interesting research stuff. Right. But I mean, I didn't get that sort of leadership experience. And for us, like, we tell the team all the time, it's kind of like, guys, this is actually our first time doing this as well. So please, like, if you find the way we're doing things is sort of, if there's something wrong, or if you think we can, do things better, like, just let's keep this sort of like this channel completely open. Like, I think that the concept of sort of having like annual appraisals, or even, quarterly appraisals, I don't know, they're a bit redundant in like sort of smaller teams, or even in sort of millennial teams where you need to have like constant sort of feedback.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what you said there is really similar to what we do here. We give autonomy to the guys, so they can make decisions, they can take risks. So if you can hand things off to them, and you give them the confidence and freedom to run with it, I think that's really key in terms of particularly millennials, is saying, right, you don't be scared to fail.
Yeah.
Go and run with it. Otherwise, you're going to be doing everything yourself. I'm
Yeah.
guilty of that sometimes. I think I want to keep everything to myself and do it my way. But actually, it's really interesting what you said about the moment when you started hiring more people. Your revenue went up because
Yeah.
you can actually go and execute, do the business development side and everything else. That's probably
Yeah.
a key learning for businesses who, oh no, if I get this money here for upfront for a salary, how's that going to affect me? But actually, it's an investment. The ROI is there.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, it's all about communication as well, because
Yeah,
it's crazy how how communication is literally the problem with pretty much is literally the cause of most problems,
yeah,
right?
agreed.
And if you can just implement sort of tiny things to just change like the way you communicate, for example, like I was like, like even if you're having like an awful morning, right? Like if you can always just make sure that you wish everyone, hey guys, good morning, and you just put on put on a happy face for a second, okay, just so everyone sort of is like, okay, cool, everything's good. And then if you can just tweak the way you sort of like question things, or before you type a message or an email, just read it for a sec and be like, wait, if like taken out of isolation, like is this coming off as good or bad, or can I sort of reword it and say it in a better way? I think it
Yeah.
makes a massive difference. It's things like that which can really make or break a company for sure.
Yeah, because it starts with you, then it goes to your team, and if you're being negative or down, then that will cascade down to how they react with the customer and deal with your your clients. And yeah, that's you don't want that to be a negative thing. What else did I want to talk to you about here? The current climate. So tough time as we record now. We're on lockdown in the COVID-19 crisis. How's it affected your business, and what have you done to perhaps create opportunities?
Well, to be completely transparent, like it's killed us. So we essentially had 30 days that we've had to write off for the year, because we
Yep.
had basically had zero revenue, right? We made no money because our operations were suspended because everything was closed. You weren't allowed to leave the house. So yeah, it has been pretty awful. Luckily, we have managed to sort of stay afloat because our we don't, because reasons like not having massive overheads, and just being a bit sort of mindful as to how we were spending the money, and also just being aware of like in the lead up to it as well. So like end of February, early March, like it was getting clear that wait, this may actually be a problem that has larger implications. So we'd already sort of started sort of watching like the amount of money that we were spending on marketing and things, and I think that sort of helped us quite a lot. And I mean, we used the time to really take a step back and really think about how, I mean, one question I asked the team was, okay, if we were to restart LetsWork, brand new business, we completely, rebranded everything, okay, what would it look like on May the 1st when things start opening up? And that was a really good way to sort of, for us to understand like what issues we had, and like what the sort of and it really fleshed out the challenges we were having as well, as a business, even before COVID struck. So I mean, with us, like we realized that our product was great, but unfortunately had a pretty high churn rate, because people could sign up for a day, they could sign up for a week or a month, and then they may never come back. So even though we may have tens of thousands of customers who bought a package with us, whether once or twice, or they've been with us for a year, they can easily just go somewhere else if their needs sort of change. So we thought, wait, how can we sort of diversify what our products and services are? So we're now looking at private offices. We're looking at meeting rooms is something we've been doing for a while anyway, but we're essentially building this platform where you could sort of rent private offices and meeting rooms for an hour or for a day or a week or a month, because I think increasingly we're seeing where people's sort of needs change, like they evolve. So they may start off as a member on day one as as an individual, and then they may grow to a team of 2 or 3, and then suddenly if they're doing well, they'll grow into an even larger team, and maybe our product isn't the best sort of fit for them as a larger team, or even just getting in touch with a brand new sort of target market, which isn't really comfortable with the idea of co-working, and just prefers a private space. And that's why we've sort of gone with that, and we're quite excited to launch that in the next month or so. And interestingly, I think one other sort of it's not a pivot, but I mean, one other sort of brainstorming thing to deal with that sort of challenge of the way people will be working now. We sort of thought, wait, co-working spaces or offices in general, they're sort of breeding grounds for diseases because you're constantly surrounded by people who aren't your immediate family. There's visitors and there's guests coming in constantly in and out, and yeah, it's you don't know where the people around you have been as well. So would people still want to basically work from co-working spaces, or would they sort of want more privacy and want to at least have some sort of distance? And I mean, aside from the all the sort of the precautionary measures that our venues and our partners have been making, so all the usual stuff about disinfecting and ensuring everyone's wearing masks, and the temperature scans at the door and all that, we thought, why not sort of have some sort of product where we can sort of isolate our members even a little bit more, just to give them a bit more privacy and to make sure they sort of have that silence. And so we thought, wait, we already work with the Rogue hotels, and why not? And obviously the hotel industry it's an awful time for them as well, because there's no inbound flights. So we thought, they have very low occupancy. Well, depending on which hotel it is. So a lot of them have low occupancy right now, or to what compared to what they usually would be. And we thought, why not? Why don't we convert some of the hotel rooms into an office? So we literally got rid of the bed. We spoke to the team. They got rid of the bed. They brought in a desk from the meeting room floor. They brought in a chair from the meeting room floor. They fixed it. They rearranged the furniture a little bit as well. They made sure you have all the amenities in the room, so like your drinks, a notepad, pens, and stuff. And there's a big TV as well where you can sort of connect via Bluetooth too, so you can have a video call as well. So we thought, this is actually a really great sort of solution for people who've been working at home for the last 1 month, and they have, they're sick and tired of it, and they want the extra space, or they've had enough of their kids screaming or their dog jumping on their lap in a video call, and things like that. So we thought, it might be a great respite for people who want to get out of the house, and just maybe just give them that bit more comfort or safety, then so that they're happier.
No, I think that's an incredible way, or a way to create an opportunity, and I'll be really interested to see how that works, because from what I hear, it's only going to be 30% occupancy back to the offices. So
yeah,
there will be an opportunity there for you if people need to, as you say, if they've got kids at home and they've got big calls to make, or they want to do maybe once or twice a week, they need to block out a load of admin away from home, but they can't go into the office. Then they can book a room through the app. It's amazing.
And yeah, I mean, seeing as how, you're right about the 30% occupancy thing for offices, because then, is it functional to do sort of work from home for a long-term basis? I mean, typically work from home was really a thing if, yeah, sure, if you're maybe a new mom, or if you're, just like one times a week sort of thing, where you just have things to look at, like is work from home really viable for the long term? I think it depends who you really ask. There's definitely some people who who are all about sort of giving your employee that freedom they want and deserve and everything, but I think at the same time you want to balance it with actually being physically around your team as well. I think it does make a difference.
I don't think it'll ever go to complete remote working for everyone. I think you're right. There'll be, when COVID-19 ends, I think people will adopt work from home and use Zoom and everything else, but I think it'll be a blend. That's what we do that at Hoyamel. Actually, we it's you can work how and when you want, but we have a core office and everyone meets there in the mornings. We're there most of the time, but after that you can kind of go about how you want to operate yourself, and that's really worked for us, and I think a lot of other companies will work like that moving forward, no matter what they're in. It doesn't matter what industry or what function you're in. I think that will work with technology. Now you can work how you want, really.
Definitely agree.
Cool. So that's really interesting how you've created something that I bet you wouldn't have done if COVID-19 hadn't struck.
Yeah, no, definitely. We've had to think on our feet, and fingers crossed. I mean, we just launched it this afternoon, so
okay.
So how it goes. Watch this space.
Wow. Okay. I really like what you said about how you kind of stepped back and said, how would we, what would we do differently about the business?
Yeah.
That's a really interesting way to kind of think. And how would it look different if we started to, in a month's time? That's a really interesting thing to do.
For sure. And I think, I mean, more than just sort of the immediate sort of issues or challenges with COVID and stuff like that, aside from that, I think that really, brought to light the inherent issues with the business, like, and it really helped us sort of, rethink how like, why are we doing what we're doing? Like, is there any reason? And is there a reason why we've always done something this way? Or are there other ways to think about it as well? So it was quite liberating actually, just to spend a
Yeah.
few hours just to spend a few hours just brainstorming with the team, like how our new business could work, even in terms of the way we approach things as like operationally as well. Like, would we make everything a lot more remote? Like, how can we take off these sort of these operational workloads on our hands, which take up a lot of time, and can we sort of can we leverage technology to really minimize that that workload.
Yeah, and you can go back to the beginning. Why did you start a business? What was the problem that you're trying to solve as a business?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, you veer off a little bit. You kind
For
of
sure.
forget, so you can start again, refresh. Right, let's crack on back onto what we were looking to do from the outset.
Yeah, and it's just so interesting to think, whether, and I think when we come out of this, I think it'll definitely be this sort of this really like interesting world where like a lot of businesses or business models or things that you thought were so successful or so interesting, or oh my God, I thought they were doing so well, but I mean they didn't really come out of it on the other side. I hope we do, and I hope you do,
Yeah,
and I hope like everyone else does. But I mean, it's really going to be a bit of this filter that sort of filters out the things, and whether it's a startup or whether it's even these sort of massive corporations that have become so debt ridden in the last few decades, whether it's aviation or entertainment and media, like things are going to change pretty significantly quite quickly as well.
yeah. Well, hopefully it'll be okay for everyone, but it's certainly a crazy time. But yeah,
Mm.
we'll see. If people think like yourselves, being positive, thinking a bit differently, creating value for your clients in different ways, I don't think you can go
Yeah,
wrong in the long term. Um,
definitely.
that's a key thing that I'm hearing from all types of businesses, big, small, tech, FMCG, real
Mm-hmm.
estate. They're all trying to do something different, and those are the guys that will actually come out on top, I think.
And I think one important thing is also just communicating with your customer as well. It's kind of like, wait, okay, so you're in the situation. What do you need? If what I'm offering you is doesn't meet your demands, then what meets your demands? And how can I maybe tweak my current offering for it to meet
Yeah,
your demand well? And I mean, we did that with like a small batch of customers as well, just asking them, like how comfortable would you be? We read surveys and stuff, like, how comfortable would you be? Like how quickly would you be, leaving the house after all of this? Like what are the precautions you would pump up, you in particular would be taking yourself?
yeah,
And it's just really all about the customer. You can
yeah,
have the most brilliant idea, but if there's no customer for it, then what's the point?
yeah. That's great. Keeping customer centric, always thinking about what problem you can solve for
Mm,
them is definitely the way forward. That's good
yeah.
stuff. So, what about the future of the business? What are your plans? Are you ever thinking about changing? Well, setting up another country or location? I know you do Abu Dhabi and all the other Emirates actually, but
We are.
would you look at Saudi or something like
So I
that?
mean, there's so many ways you can grow. Like you can grow, as you said, geographically, and I think with us, we've I mean, it's difficult because you can either sort of grow to your immediate neighboring markets, and you could do it, and you just on the assumption that, oh, it's close, and the language barrier is the same, and the way business is conducted is quite similar, or more similar than not. And so it's sort of like an obvious sort of next step to maybe grow this into Saudi or Bahrain or Qatar, and countries like that. But then there's also that side that, wait, maybe they're not so different, and maybe your business is that actually deserves to be in more sort of metropolitan sort of cities like Dubai, because it's such a hub, and your business probably deserves, or would probably do better in other similar hubs as well, like Singapore or Hong Kong or Amsterdam or London and things. So it's
Yeah,
like when it comes to sort of geographic growth, I think that's the sort of the fork that you sort of reach, and is something that you want to choose. I don't know if one is better than the other, and I don't know whether one is more difficult than the other. But yeah, we'll wait and see after all this as to what the world looks like. In terms of sort of products and services, again, I think there's so many things we could do. I said that I mentioned how we're talking about offices and meeting rooms, but there's always this this urge or desire to have like a physical space of our own, mostly because we'd love to sort of, because at the moment we have all these partner venues and we sort of um, have to be at their beck and call, and they, if they have certain changes in the way things are done, or if they have more of this and less of that, we have to sort of stick to accept that. So we'd
Yeah.
love to sort of do things our own way, and really implement the things that we've learned. So yeah, I'd love to maybe start our own space, but that would also depend on the financials of it, and the commercial sort of intricacies of how we could make it really work and not sort of struggle like your WeWorks and the rest.
Sure. Well, look, that'd be exciting to see where you are in a year or 2 years.
Yeah, who
Um,
knows?
we always follow you guys closely because you're close to our heart because you started up pretty much the same time as us. So
Yeah,
we'll keep connected, and as I say, kind of sit down, hopefully face to face
yeah.
at some point,
Oh,
when we're a little bit more high tech than a Zoom call for the next podcast.
and I think the cool
Um,
thing about your industry and ours is just the fact that there's so much face time with people. Like you're on a
yeah,
day-to-day basis, you just meet and speak to so many different people, and it's so interesting because you always, like, sometimes I wonder, like, who are these people? Like, what are they doing? Like where do you find them? Like, who are, like, what brings you to the city? And it's such a diverse sort of mix of people, and I wouldn't have had that opportunity if I was in any other industry, I don't think. And I'd say it's probably the same with HR and finding people, right?
yeah, yeah. It's a great business to be in, kind of recruitment, because you're like yourselves, you're constantly speaking to new people, finding
Mm,
out about their challenges and how you can help. And yeah, it's interesting.
mm.
But listen, I'll close it off there because I've had you for nearly an hour here. I know you've got iftar soon. Um, but but yeah, look, thank you so much. And next time we'll get Omar on as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you again, and speak to you soon.
Thank you for having me. Take care and see you later.
Good stuff.
Bye.
Cheers. Let me just